Morning, everybody. How are we doing today? It's a beautiful Easter morning here in the upper Midwest. Got a little Serge Chaloff playing. Fantastic Boston native, one of the great baritonists of the 50s. He wasn't long for this world, had a bad drug problem and some emotional issues. But Serge made some great records on the West Coast. I remember he was part of the Herman Herd, the Four Brothers for a while. Playing with some great talent, Stan Getz, I think Herb Geller was there for a while. It's just a really talented West Coast scene, and this is a pretty hard to find a record on Capitol, but it is written in reprint right now. I'll let other people debate the quality of the reprint because I'm not interested in that kind of stuff, really, as you all know. So, interesting developments have been happening. First and foremost, I watched this podcast, Friday probably was, that my friend Mike Parenti, one of the jazz bums, had sent me a link to. And it was T.S. Monk, Thelonious Monk's child, talking about Monk's legacy and black art in general. I haven't got the chance to watch all of it yet. I got probably halfway through it, and I got super busy. It's been a busy weekend again. However, T.S. gets rather upset at some of the notions that his dad wasn't a socially conscious person or a racially aware person, that wasn't a part of the awareness of the struggle. And Monk says some stuff, T.S. Monk, I'll say, that echoes things I've said many times. And black artists are almost incapable of making music that doesn't speak about the black experience. And Monk was a socially conscious, aware fella. I forgot that he won a bunch of talent contests at a young age at the Apollo, to the point where he was told not to come back. That was kind of interesting. But boy, it just echoes a lot of things I've said that a lot of people have had pushback on. And I think it's hard for people to remember that white people, when they make music, for the most part, being the ruling class and not really identifying with all white people ever. It's not something we really do. We never really speak for white people when we make our art. We don't speak for the entire white community. I mean, all the various cultures in Europe that most Americans couldn't even identify with a magnifying glass. They don't know where Luxembourg is. Liechtenstein, Andorra, San Marino, these are places that are off the radar. Belgium would be a challenge for a lot of Americans to find today, and I've had many not be able to find Paris. I had globes all over this place, and I've been a geography guy my whole life, and there's just such a disconnect with world geography and understanding of their comprehension within the world, which is part of making someone more controllable. The less you know, the more you fear, the more you fear, the more you hate, and the more you hate, I can control you. So, things have been interesting. The Monk piece was validating only in terms of, man, I've said a lot of that stuff. Maybe you'll hear what I had to say louder if you listen to what T.S. Monk had to say about his father's experience and the experience of the black community. The black community does speak for the black community in whole, frequently in its art. That's part of being struggle as a people. You identify and you speak for and represent all of your people, and you're more conscious of what, not wanting to misrepresent, probably, than you are about how you represent. You certainly don't want to send the wrong message. And certain messages must be sent in code to avoid conflict or to make your struggle greater even. And that being said, there's already starting to be an African presence starting to hang out here. And it's something I'm kind of been angling for. I even chose a few of the beers I brought in for, knowing that my African friends in the Twin Cities always liked Heineken, they always liked Guinness. And so far that's been proven true once again. But I had a friend in from Kenya in the second time yesterday. We sat and chatted for a couple hours with his Jamaican friend Dwight. And we just had a great conversation. Lance, me, and Dwight sat down here chatting it up, talking about the world and much broader things than receiving yards for the average NFL wideout. I mean, we can delve into some deeper things, And I'm proud to say that as a human earthling, my vocabulary extends to the continent of Africa, and I'm very fluent in that language. And I can speak about N'Djamena and Bamako and know something about Yamoussoukro, the new capital of Cote d'Ivoire. I mean, it's something I've always tried to stay some kind of connection to. And so they're already starting to bring in I had a Liberian fellow in here, a pastor. And both upstanding, well-educated men, as most of my African friends have been. More Africans know the capital of Canada than Americans do. I mean, they're an educated bunch. They know white man history better than most white men do. I mean, they were raised in the legacy of colonialism. But I'm already starting to see, and I'm starting a reggae Afrobeat night on Saturdays coming up next month. And so my intent was to bring people from Africa in Rochester out here, which is about 20 minutes away. And then Winona is about 30 minutes that way, and they have some African population as well. Sudanese, South Sudanese, Somali, Ethiopian, Kenyans, some West Africans. I mean, and even the Twin Cities, you know, I mean, I think if I had something really special going, playing reggae, Afrobeat, some two-step, some drum and bass, this stuff that kind of has a real cool dub, I mean, dance hall. It's all going to kind of, just depending on the night, you know what I mean, and who's here and how I feel and how loud my wife wants it to be. I mean, I was going to kind of connect with her, place an emotional state too. But the thought does cross your mind at one point, how's this town going to receive swaths of Africans coming through this county? And we're right on the border of a county, actually. And they're going to come from one county and cross on the other and then hit this little town, which I don't know if that helps us because most of the cops from this town are going to be in the rest of the county off to the east. Because I mean, from what I can tell, Wabasha County sends a cop here a couple times a day for an hour. You know, and they'll come up here at bar close sometimes, but we're not going to ever be open that late. But if we start seeing them harassing our customers when they leave, and if we're cognizant of all of a sudden new inspections and issues from the authorities, we're going to document this stuff, because if racism plays a role, we're going to be ready to stand up to that racism. We will not stand for discrimination. And there's clever ways where they can wipe out something that's minority-centric. And we're already kind of got our radar on for that. So we'll be looking. I mean, all of a sudden we have an extra kitchen inspection and they're telling us we got to do a bunch. I mean, we'll be watching. Just putting that out in the universe. We'll be watching. Me and the wife are already going, okay, don't make me build a case. You know what I mean? Because in today's climate, you really don't want the bad representation of being seen as a racist county or a police department or any kind of city hall. I mean, that's not very woke. And these people out here don't care about being woke, trust me. But all the same, we're watching. And I came to another kind of sad realization the other day. And it's just the majority of the men in this town don't come in here. And I got to the point where I started to think it was the politics. And what's strange is I don't really discuss politics. And I certainly don't discuss direct issue politics. I don't really even follow the current stream. I find it unpalatable to my daily exercise. And I have larger philosophies and larger principles that my politics can ascribe to, but I don't really follow the day-to-day minutia of it and a lot of times the drama that's happening and unfolding. It's just not part of my realm. But politics is something I made a conscious effort not to talk about in here, in large part because of being, you know, a left to center person is a pretty bright demographic out here. And I just couldn't believe that such a large percentage, especially the men, just weren't even coming out of curiosity. We made most of the local papers, the local news channels. I mean, the building's lit cool from the outside. You can see these. I mean, aren't you curious? And I thought they must have figured out this was a left-wing hideout, judging by the Subarus and Birkenstocks parked out front and walking in the door every day. Because we do get a good swath of that liberal, I teach kindergarten kind of, you know, cliche walking in. But I thought maybe it was the core on, you know, I mean, sometimes the foo-foo prices and coffee's a little bit too fancy for me. And so I was trying to work my way through that process. My wife just interrupted me there. She's got back from She had a migraine for a couple of days, so say a thought and prayer for her. But I realized something kind of ugly. And I mean, I know there's been a few people talked about the pricing, which we're actually lower than most coffee shops. We don't have to pay a corporate holdover. We don't have a lease on this property because we already own the property. So we set our prices purposely below most of our competitors on most items. I mean, you can get a sandwich, coffee, and a treat here under $20. But that's still foo-foo to some of these conservative-minded people. And I don't mean politically conservative, just like they don't want to spend money. They bitch about $1 cup of coffee at the gas station. Why would I pay $1 for a cup of coffee? So I'm making these excuses for them, thinking maybe it's that. Maybe it's the decor, the maps, and what I've mockingly called the redneck repellent. All the kind of global decor that exists in here. But I've come to a much uglier realization. And if this was a collection of country music, housed in the same building by the same person, and it was an anthology of the history of country music, thousands of records strong. And I was posting on my Facebook and social media every day pictures of good old white Americans. I don't think anything would have an issue with coming in here. In spite of the pricing, in spite of the decor, in spite of the lighting, in spite of the, I think all that stuff would have become secondary and no longer an issue. It's the fact that I'm posting pictures of black jazz musicians and black R&B singers daily and playing black music all the time. And it's that, I think, more than anything else, it makes them anywhere from apprehensive to uncomfortable. And it's such a consensus. Like, it's just, they don't come in. I see them out there at the 3 bars. And you think they'd poke in and say, hey, I live in town here, just, But the thought of walking into a place that's playing black music. And I thought I would get around that by what music I was playing. I thought they would come in and go, oh, this jazz is nice. This blues is cool. I like the blues. I like ZZ Top. I like Stevie Ray Vaughan. This is the blues. I like this. I thought Motown, Marvin Gaye wouldn't be scared of nobody. And I do play plenty of white music as well, which is kind of the funny thing. But like I said, the 95-year-old, 93-year-old whoever he is across the street walks around talking about me and my nigger music. That's how he says it to people. And it's come back to me from multiple sources. Same old man used to talk to me outside every day when I was painting up there last summer, doing all my yard thing, getting all the stuff ready for the building on the exterior. He would talk to me every day. He would eat our apples in the backyard. And talk about his wife Rita, and then when we opened, he poked his head in one time. Hasn't been back in. And he walks every day, 2-3 times a day. He's out walking all over this town. He lives right there, and he won't come in. And he stops and talks to a lot of people. Most people in this town know this fella. And it's just saddens me to think that instead of there being some kind of curiosity, me being able to build a bridge through the music, it's actually the music that's got them uncomfortable enough to not want to come in here. And I just think that's really disappointing. So I'm going to leave it at that. But I do want to talk about one other thing that's interesting that's happening, is I've had 3 or 4 bags of records now dropped off here. And it also reveals some of America's racial makeup. I've had a couple of jazz collections dropped off that there wasn't a black record in the mix. Most of the collections have been varied and had a wide range of things from Righteous Brothers to, Barbra Streisand, and half the stuff I've just given away to people. Most of the stuff I've given away to people. I've only kept, a few things here and there. But that collection given to me yesterday by a great old fella who was a huge Stan Kenton fan. Him and his brother built a music room in their basement to sit around listening to Stan Kenton records. And he knows some other jazz, but he knows Stan Kenton really well. He met Kenton many times, has photographs and autographs of the guy, like books of photographs, and seen him around the country, almost like he followed the Grateful Dead, and he knows the Kenton language and the bands, and it's pretty crazy how much he knows about this band. But he came by yesterday, he's probably approaching 80, maybe mid-80s even, and he gave me a bag of records yesterday. and most of the cool stuff I have, but at least it was mostly jazz. I think it was all jazz, actually. But even this will illustrate kind of some of the things I talk about white America's experience with jazz. When you lived through the 40s and 50s, Monk wasn't on your radar. You know, I mean, you didn't know who Charlie Parker was or John Coltrane. So, I mean, they just didn't know who the black musicians were. They weren't being distributed in this part of the country. There was no internet. You know, I mean, there was no travel for that language. And so the white imitators of that music art form were so popular, and they were winning all the downbeat polls and all the Playboy polls that I've talked about multiple times. But I have these collections given to me by these pretty big jazz fans. It's just clear evidence of what I'm talking about. I'm going to show you some things this guy gave me. And I'm going to start with the pieces that I have. And they're all cool. And I thought about selling some pieces that I have doubles of eventually in here. But one of the coolest pieces he gave me was this. The Grand Encounter. And you actually have a couple of brothers on this with Chico Hamilton and Percy Heath, along with Bill Perkins, John Lewis, and Jim Hall. A great record, original cover. This has multiple covers on the Pacific label. Again, I'm very much a white jazz label. A fantastic jazz record. This is one of the best sessions on this label from 55 or 6 probably. Fantastic stuff. And it's probably in better condition than the one I have even. I'm going to have to look. He gave me Jazz at Oberlin on a 10-inch, which, again, I have this. It's the red vinyl on Fantasy. But Brubeck was jazz white folks knew. For good reason. The guy was fantastic. He was distributed all over the country. He kind of went on and on about how rare that Oberlin 10-inch was. And I've had it for, 10, 15 years, and I see it all the time, to be honest. Brubeck sold really well. June Christie, who, of course, sang with Kenton. A fantastic jazz pop vocalist, but, I mean, she's as white as it gets. Andre Previn, who there's probably a less rigid, less bluesy player in jazz than Andre Previn. So, again, not a lot of brothers about Andre Previn records, let's just say that. Pacific number 4. I just did that series on the Pacific compilation records. This is Jazz West Coast volume number 4, that fantastic cover. And you have a few brothers on this. Chico Hamilton shows up on this. The Master Sounds, which is Wes Montgomery's brothers. Cool piece, great cover. Again, I'll maybe keep that version. Shelly Manne, My Fair Lady, which you find this in every yard sale in the country. Seems to think. This Blackhawk record, beautiful old sheen on that cover. Again, he kind of went on this one about how rare it was. And this one's probably rarer than the Oberlin, actually. But it's 3/210, which makes it the 10th 12-inch release in the Brubeck in the Fantasy sequence. Cool piece, again. So it's a real jazz collection that he gave me. Had a couple of customers walk in there, but so as I was saying, I mean, he gave me some cool stuff. The oboe and flute, Howard Rumsey's Lighthouse. Again, I have it, but 3520, so it's the 20th LP, the old Lighthouse label, so that's an old first pressing of that. I mean, he's a great guy, and I sat and chatted with him about jazz numerous times. Again, it's very Kenton-centric. I thought there would be more Woody Herman in his vocabulary, and he knew and remembered Woody, but he certainly was, and that's what I found, is there seemed to be either one or the other. You either love the one or you love the other. Herman probably swung a little harder, and Kenton probably was a little bit more creative and innovative. It's a bit like the Ellington-Basie comparison, where Ellington would be sophisticated with his arrangements and have a lot of interesting angles and counter melodies and stuff, and it basically was just more about pocket and groove and swinging and driving a tempo for people to move to. This record, he gave me this, and I'll be honest, I don't know much about this. It looks like it's on, let's say, Fantasy? It looks like it's part of Stan Kenton's empire, actually. Creative World. No, it's Collegiate Neophonic Orchestra of Southern California. Tribute to Poltergeist. Interesting. And so, again, I don't know much. Neophonic's the name of the band of the album. And there's some interesting names in here. Like Jim Snodgrass is a name I've heard before. Mike Ficarro. Jack Wheaton, I've heard of him. Tom Baker. Gary Pack on the trumpet. But yeah, I don't know much about it. Cool cover. And I'll definitely give it a listen at some point. There's a Maynard Ferguson record here. And this is probably from the 70s. I'm gonna looks like. It's a promo. It's not a promo actually, but it's got the sticker on it for radio. I think it says 79. So yeah, it's a promo. It's got the promo sticker on it. The record itself isn't the white promo. So whether it's mismatched or maybe they just stopped doing the white labels and just did the white label there instead. Maynard Ferguson, Horn 2. Maynard Ferguson. Late 70s. Another Maynard Ferguson, probably on the same label, yep. Looks like it's also from 79. And Maynard's a great player. Obviously, he played with Kenton and had a great career at Emercy. And he is a fantastic Hyatt registered player from Montreal. And then there's two of these. Wide Range, Creative World, which again is affiliated with the Kenton label. He starts this label when he leaves Capitol. And this is the Billy May and his orchestra, and this is Johnny Richards and his orchestra. So, interesting little pieces that he gave me there. Gene Quill, Hank Jones, wow. Willie Rodriguez. There's some pretty Jimmy Cleveland, wow. There's some players on there. Joe Mondragon, Paul Smith, wow. Cy Zentner, Conrad Gozo. So, yeah, this is serious stuff here. When these sessions are from, I don't see that. Oh, 57. That's early. So, cool stuff again that he's giving me here. And then he gave me a little pile of 7-inches. And the 7-inch stuff, I don't have any of this stuff. It's the jazz themes from the Wild One, the Marlon Brando film. And it's one of those cool little 7-inch LP kind of fold-out thingos. The Glenn Miller story. I think it's on Decca. So part of what's interesting here is just recognizing this is what white jazz musicians who are deep jazz fans, this is what they were exposed to. Nat Cole. And Nat Cole is like, he's one of the black artists that got to cross over, as I've said, and here he is in that collection. You know, it's not just like I'm just guessing at this stuff. It's what years of shopping and collecting and searching and looking through stores and seeing what every batch of records that a store adds, the percentages of things, you know. This is a cool Duke Ellington Spotlight, Columbia, 7-inch. It's a 4-song little EP. Probably have those songs somewhere. This is a Kenton Christmas 7-inch, sorry, from 62. On behalf of the orchestra, may I wish each and every one of you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Christmas 62. And I'm guessing this is on Creative World, and it is. So, again, that's a pretty rare piece. I'm guessing it's probably not too easy to find. I'm guessing. I don't know. Boots Mazzulli, a guy, again, played with Stan Kenton. This is probably on the Stan Kenton Presents Jazz LP by him. I'm guessing is a 7-inch from that. That actually might be a 10-inch. I can't remember. Cool piece here. Howard Rumsey's Lighthouse All-Stars on Contemporary number 4002, which would make this the second 7-inch Contemporary issued on the red vinyl with the Lighthouse on there. So it's an old 7-inch. Howard Rumsey's Lighthouse All-Stars. Who's in the group here? Shorty Rogers, Milt Bernhardt, Jimmy Joffrey, Bob Cooper, Frank Patchen, Shelly Manne, Howard Rumsey, Carlos Vidal. I mean, that's some pretty crazy stuff. It looks like it's a 4-song EP. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep. Recorded in 1952. I'm sure it's also on some of the LPs and 10-inches, but Stan Kenton, This Modern World. Again, I have the 10-inch of this. I think I might have the LP of this. This is one of those triple 7-inch deals where they have, 3 7-inches for each side. This was composed by Bob Gratinger. And it's a fairly modern avant-garde piece almost, with Kenton throwing his band at this piece of music. Great cover. Cool piece. And pretty indicative of what the American white jazz listeners were listening to. And then we get this one piece here that has a black man on the cover. And, there was the Nat Cole. But this is probably the coolest thing in the bunch. I mean, there's a couple of pretty cool pieces there I'm going to say, but this is the big tenor of Ben Webster. 7-inch on Emersy. Great picture of the man. Probably still half in the bottle. Ben liked to put his liquor down. And so you see that for a white jazz fan who was a lifelong jazz fan and a very knowledgeable jazz fan, what the Black American artists were doing was just so off the radar. And it wasn't a race thing for him. And he was talking yesterday about, too, how Kenton would have some black guys, but it was so difficult for Kenton and Herman to have the black guys in their bands, in part because they would often have to end up sleeping in Kenton's room. I mean, and this is from the mouth of Stan Kenton, you know? And so it's such a sad thing to look at. Just the injustice that's so inescapable when you talk about this music and all the great black jazz players. He has one 7-inch by, and this is not his whole collection, so I'm hoping I'm sure he says he's going to bring me more as he comes each time. So that's kind of exciting, a little tidbit for me to look forward to there. And I'm hoping to glean a few great pieces out of everything he brings me. I'm also honored that he feels like this is a place worthy of that donation. The other collections were more someone passed away and you have records, here you go. This was a guy saying, I've loved this music my whole life, and I want this to go somewhere where it's going to still be played and be valuable and or it makes sense. So I'm pretty thrilled about that. And so it's great with the Africans coming out already. I mean, we're already starting to see that. We are conscious of there's probably going to be some issues with it because there wasn't Minneapolis. And Minneapolis is like a fairly liberal center. And boy, there was still complaints and the police and city mayor. And we had a lot of heat. And I think being aware of it going in, we'll have our radars on. And we'll start documenting things if we need to. And let's pray it never comes to that. Let's pray that cooler heads prevail and that there's no need for kind of such a lawsuit or whatever the heck might come down out of that. You know, I mean, if they try to shut us down, we will fight. You know what I mean? To a point, you know. But we definitely know that there's something worth fighting for here. Last thing I want to share real quick, two things. At a Confo, there's this fantastic group from Ghana. And I talked about Brian Eno several times, one of the great producers. He played with Roxy Music and produced Ultravox, David Bowie, U2. I mean, the list of productions that Brian Eno has done is fairly incredible. But he had this label, Editions EG, which was a label he founded for some of his ambient music and other music that he found interesting in the 70s into the 80s. The Harold Budds, the John Hossels, the Penguin Cafe Orchestra. I mean, I'm a big fan of stuff on that label. That's part of why I bought this record 20 years ago. Number 1,617 in my collection. 1,600. That's when this record I purchased. And I don't do those stickers anymore. But so we're talking probably mid to late 90s. And I've listened to a lot. I've DJ'd a lot. It's great African funk. I mean, and with the Afrobeat night that we're going to start doing at some point here, that need to be pulled out again. But I also want to talk to you about this real quick. Damian Marley, Stony Hill, which is a neighborhood in Jamaica, in Kingston, if I remember. Damian, the youngest of the Marley boys. You had Ziggy, Stephen, Kamani, Julian, and young Damian, who was the son of a Jamaican Miss Universe. And so he has the genes of a beautiful black woman and Bob Marley, which is a pretty interesting combination. He was brought up a little more affluent than his brothers were. He was a bit more influenced by dancehall and hip-hop. If you go back to Welcome to Jamrock, like he's kind of throwing down cadence. He's throwing down rhymes. Beautifully packaged, his album here. This is the most recent album from 2018. Beautiful book with beautiful photography and lyric spreads. I mean, the raised microphone. It's really a beautiful set. It's truly a gorgeous piece. And I think it only cost around $35. The Marleys are all intellectual men who recognize the struggle of the third world people and the legacy that they carry. And they all make important music, to be honest. Stephen was a big part of producing his brothers oftentimes. And there's some songs here that are pretty fantastic. Everybody Wants to Be Somebody's great. Picture Perfect with Stephen Marley is wonderful. Autumn Leaves is a nice song. Living It Up's really fun. Medication's nice with Stephen Marley. Nail Upon Cross, which I love the lyrics, but I don't really love the beat on that one as much. Slave Mill will really make you think a little bit. But Speak Life, the closing piece on this, which has a video on YouTube, which is shot in Addis Ababa, the capital of Ethiopia, where Haile Selassie and a lot of the Rastafari legacy kind of was rooted. And he's filming with a couple of the old generals who fought along Haile Selassie against the Italians. And he showed up kind of unannounced, and he's walking the city streets kind of cloaked and not really trying to be revealing his identity or his fame to people. And the cameras kind of follow him around the streets of Addis. And I'm proud to say from the bottom of my heart that I recognized that was probably Addis Ababa. The first time I watched the video, I'm like, to my wife, I said, that looks like it's probably Addis. And there was enough, few places where I saw writing and just the kind of rocky, mountainous. I'm like, I was pretty sure. And then with the Rastafari connection as well. It could have been anywhere. It could have been Jamaica, really. But I felt like it was Addis. And they were showing all these faces throughout the video that are telling the human story. And he closes the song up by saying, Speak Life. All this darkness not feel right. And it makes my hair stand on end every time I hear it. It's just such a beautiful, profound song that sums up so much of my feeling about the world and economics and politics and how the lack of unity that we have as people is our biggest weakness. And so, again, this place was supposed to be a bastion that helped people come in and meet at the center. But it seems like a lot of that side doesn't want to come in. And I guess, it is going to be what it is. I'm going to fly the flag I fly. I'm going to be the person that I am. And my wife's with me on that 100%. And let the chips fall where they may, But keep us in your thoughts and prayers, just keep us in mind. And we're going to probably do something that's a little risky in terms of doing an African night here in a small town. But the people I've talked to so far are so excited. And, I don't just build customers, I build friendships. And that's part of the secret. And I know that when I talk to Africans, we get so excited having this conversation. And the friendships I've built with Africans over the years have always been really lasting. And when I've met people in my neighborhoods, they've stopped by endless times just to sit and chat with me. And so if I build those relationships over and over with all the Africans who live in this area within a 30, 40-mile radius, my Saturday night Afrobeat reggae night will become something of kind of a place for them to go. And eventually there's going to be some pushback. You know what I mean? And hopefully, like at Triggs, in spite of the pushback, there was more positives and more friendships built than there was tensions. And most of the tensions were just people calling the city and the police and the owners and complaining. But the people who actually came in, white and black, became great friends. And a lot of those friendships have lasted for 20 years now. A lot of these people have gone to each other's weddings. And one of the proudest things I have to say about that Triggs 6 years of my life is how many people got married from that gig. I'm very proud of that it was a place where people met, people of quality, looking for other quality people. Felt like that Friday night, soul night, with the old R&B music, was a place to go meet people and dance, and it was fantastic. So, the world, the life, the choices you make, they lead you where they lead, and this is where we're at a cool crossroads here. I do want to show you real quick this fun neon sign that was given to me by a friend, and right as he got it here to give it to me, he broke it, sadly, and so we had to get it repaired. But we now have that little coffee cup sign hanging in the cafe, and it's a pretty cool two-sided neon that really fits in nicely with the decor. And again, it's all about building friendships and building relationships, not just customers. Talk to y'all soon. Have a great day. Subscribe to the channel. Peace.